Hello and welcome to this tutorial. My name is Joseph and today we're covering collisions. Or more so, some of the stuff we can do with collisions and how to script them. Obviously I'm going to leave it to your imagination so you can actually expand upon this. This is a very quick just explanation of ways we can use collisions in Gamemaker to make our lives a bit easier. So, first thing I've done is I've actually just quickly come through and I've generated a player sprite there, which is just 32 by 32 pixels and centered, and a wall sprite, which is just a red background with some black lines through it, and again not centered, but it's 32 by 32, nice and easy, nothing super complex. I've also come along and generated an object player and object wall. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go into my object wall and I'm going to make it solid. Now we can make it solid in this menu here, or if you're a bit silly like I am, a bit anal, you could say, I like to set it in code just because that's just the way I do it. So solid equals true, that will set it to solid. This means later on if I want to set it to not solid, so if I'm making doors or something in my game, I can manually script it to not be solid then. You just use solid equals true or solid equals false. Easy. Okay, that's that done. In object players, or player, oh, still got a step event in there. Whoopsie. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to program the player to check for the wall. And the way I'm going to do that is very simply go if bracket, and this is where I run a collision check. So I'm going to go collision rectangle x, y, objects. I'm looking at all objects in the game room. I'm going to tell it to be a precise check, and I'm going to say it can't be me, so it can't check itself. Now, what this is going to be looking for is firstly, is the collision greater than nothing? Okay? And that might sound a bit weird, but a collision always returns an ID. So I'm basically saying, is collision larger than 0? If so, let's proceed to the next check. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to shift that to the left. I'm going to shift that to the left as well, but 2 pixels more. I'm going to shift that upwards by 16, and I'm going to shift that down by 16 because this is attached to the player object, so it will naturally spawn in the center, and I've got to offset it. Okay, so if my collision is greater than nothing, this is where we can be a bit more fancy now. So in Gamemaker, because it's object-oriented language, I can go now. Well, firstly, I can be super lazy and just copy this, because why do extra work when you can copy and paste? So I'm going to do the same collision check, but this time slightly different. So in Gamemaker, I can use full stop solid double equals, equals false, like so. What that's doing is basically, in layman's terms, if I can get that to work, I'm just going to come up here, is this is going to say get object ID dot var. And basically the idea is let's say this will be object 00, I think it's that many, 1, dot return solid. And obviously we can then look at the solid value and say, is it equal to true or not? So you can see how powerful that is. So we can return the information and then verse a value. So it's not just related to solid. You can do internal variables. You can even influence things like I can say, look at id dot speed is equal to now 50 if I want to, using the system. So it's very powerful and very flexible. So you can start storing values like this in arrays, and you can start getting quite powerful returns in dynamic systems. Okay, so what is it going to do if it's equal to false? Very simply, it's going to, not 14, I want 3. So The other thing I need to do here is this is part of my move left function. So I'm going to say if keyboard check, and I'm going to actually set it to a keyboard key. So I'm going to go ORD, which is the return for that, quotation A, quotation, close, and close. So that is going to tie into when I press, oh, and if I haven't stuffed up my code somewhere, which I have Mr. Bracket again, there. So I'm going to use my A key, needs to be capital, I'm going to use my A key to move left, and as I move left, it's going to check 2 pixels ahead of me, is there a wall? If there's no wall, it's going to proceed to move. If it discovers a wall, or if it discovers an object, it's going to check to see if it's solid, and if it is solid, it's going to stop. Else, it will continue moving. And to prove my point, I'm going to also make another object, and I'm just going to call this floor something. So, and this one I'm going to make 64 by 32. And I'm just going to make this like a rug or some sort of thing you would have in an RPG or something like that. So, horribly colored rug. I'm going to put a red circle in the middle of it, just to demonstrate my point. Oh, that's really bad actually, but okay. So, I'm also going to create that object here. So, if my program works, which I never guarantee, it's always a 50-50, and you can see here I haven't told it to be solid. So, if I'm right, I'm going to create a new room now, and I'm going to drop that down by 640 by 480. I'm going to create a wall just around the outside by using Shift Control. Whoop. And I'm going to have to delete some too, apparently. Oh, I'm doing really badly today with the placing. Okay, so now I'm going to put the player in. I haven't set the player's mask yet either, and the carpet. So you can see here, I need to, and again with these collisions, you need to set the sprite or set the sprite mask. And again, if you're setting, so let's say you're not setting the sprite like this, we can go into create event and we can go mask index is equal to sprite player, and that will actually set the sprite mask by default. That's just if you guys don't know. So let's see what this does. So in principle, if I'm right, which I should be, but oh, and I'm not drawing the sprite. 5 points if anyone picked that one up. Okay, so I'm just going to be lazy, but I've set the mask twice now. It's fine. So now, if I move, oh, if I click on the screen, wow, nothing's happening this time. Now, why would that be? Collision rectangle is equal to 5. Oh, okay. Because it's not returning anything, because it's not making a return, if collision blah. So this is always looking for is greater than nothing. So I'm going to change that is not equal to. That's the same kind of return. So if it's not equal to anything, it can move. If it's greater than something and it's not equal to, if solid is equal to false, it can continue to move. That should fix it. Sorry about that. Bit of an error on my judgment. Let's see what it does. Okay, so as you can see, I can press the A and release, press the A and release, and I can't move through that wall. So if I was to then program all the other directions, which isn't super hard because it's just a matter of going like this, I'm just going to copy that function. I'm going to change that to right, change this to D, and I'm going to change them to positive returns. Oh, No, that one doesn't need to be positive, so it's only on the flip side now, because it's centered. Change them to positive returns. And change these two to positives, like so. I should now be able to use right and left, if I'm programming it right. So as you can see, as I walk towards the carpet, it's still making a return, and I'll actually prove that by coming up here and removing that, because we don't need that because I'm already setting it by the sprite. VAR ID is equal to nothing. So I'm going to grab that, come in here, and I'm actually going to say to move left, I want ID to be always equal to this collision. And you guys are going to see now what I'm talking about with the ID returns. Because now I'm also going to go draw, and in here, draw self, so we always see our sprite, and draw text, oops, if I can spell, text is at mouse underscore X, mouse underscore Y, and VAR ID. So, I'm just going to add a little bit of distance from that so it's not right on there. But what we should see now is when I go over anything on the left side of my player, I'm going to return an ID. And that's what I'm using. So you can see here the 0 being returned. Now, see how it now changes to -4. So that carpet's ID is 10,073, whatever it is, 100073. So if I continue moving, you'll see here, the object I'm colliding with is 6. So you can see how it works. So because I'm hitting D, so as I go across using my left key, it's checking that. But because I'm using the D key now, it's not making the check on the opposite side. Okay, that's my simple little movement tutorial for collisions, or one way to use them. If you enjoyed that, make sure to give me a like. Leave a comment to see what the next tutorial you would like to see is. I do get around to answering them. I'm just sometimes a bit busy or lazy. And if you want to see another tutorial explaining something, I'm more than happy to. I'm currently working on trying to understand how Gamemaker does its networking components and break it down to as simple tutorial as possible, as I try with all my tutorials to break them down and just keep them simple and easy. I hope you have a fantastic day. See you later.